Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Series, a month-long event celebrating the authors and narrators that bring romance stories to life. Listen along as Viviana, Enchantress of Books, interviews your favorite writers and voices, share special guest posts, and stay tuned for some special information at the conclusion of the episode.
Today I have the pleasure of chatting with guest author Lauren Blakely. Welcome back to Audiobook Lovin, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me, Viviana.
Yeah, you have been a returning guest since like 2017, and because I love you. And
and I love you.
And so because you've been our guest before, we have all the basics down about your casting choices, your ideas for your books and all that fun stuff. So I thought we're just going to do a little quick catch up, see what's been going on, and just kind of have a little bit of a chat, if that's good with you.
That sounds perfect.
So you recently had a actual interview with Shane East for his Shane East Meets series. And that was you were his third guest. And he had a really good question about if he were to shoot out a name of one of the narrators, what would be your first thing to come to your mind? And yes, right? You remember that?
I remember that.
Remember that. Did you also realize that he didn't say, and Shane East?
He kept his name out of it.
Oh my God. Right. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm going to talk to her later. Because he mentioned Zach, Weber, Sebastian York, Emma, all these narrators that you've worked with, and even your favorite, Gillian Whalen. But he kept himself off. So when when the name Shane East comes up, what is the first thing that comes to mind regarding his voice?
Sexy, swoony Brit. I mean, just like I'm one of those ladies who just loves a sexy British accent. But it is also, there are plenty of narrators who speak British. There are plenty of narrators who are British and plenty of narrators who can do a British accent. But I think there's just his voice is so it's very rich and deep and sexy. Like he's there are British voices that sound like your dad and British voices that sound like your brother and British voices that sound like your lover. And that's that's the type of voice he has. But I feel like there's so much more. I think sometimes we just think about like the sexiness of the male narrator's voice when what really matters is can they act? It's not just, oh my God, he has a really sexy voice. I just want to hear that voice reading the phone book. I actually don't want to hear somebody read me the phone book. That is not interesting to me. I have zero interest in being read a grocery list unless they do it in a really over the top fashion, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear them read. I don't want to hear them reading something boring. And I think that he's such a good actor and he's really committed to all of the roles that he plays. And I think that's one of the things that makes him special. It's not just that sexy, swoony factor in his voice. It's that he gives 110% of himself to every performance, and he's fully there in every single scene. Funny, swoony, romantic, sexy, intense, emotional. Like he's just there all the time. And that's what works.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep writing books for Shane.
Yeah, I know. We keep talking, whether it's on the phone or online, and you're like, I have this story, and I'm just waiting. It's almost like I have an internal countdown of going 5, 4, 3, and it's British, and I'm going 3, 2, and it's Shane. I'm like, got it, okay?
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, but he does it so well. It's one of those things where that's one of the reasons too that I haven't really gotten tired of listening to him because he does such a fantastic job, whether it's a bit of the bantering or if it's whether it's the sexy times, but even some of that, he has such a really good comedic timing at the and when he plays that moment of like being caught off guard, it actually, you kind of feel like, oh, was he really caught off guard? But he's just that good of an actor.
And I think too, if you heard Aaron Mallon's play, which I believe you did, he's just hilarious too. I mean, he was great as like this hapless. Sorry, not hapless. He was so hapless, Viviana.
Yeah.
I love hapless. He was hapless. He was very hapless. So he was great as the hapless British husband.
Yeah. He was. I mean, it was one of those where I was like, I did not know that you could play that almost like
Right.
I want to say normal, but more like he could totally be my next door neighbor friend.
Yeah. A little bumbling. It was nice.
Yeah, it was nice to see him like, oh, you're like one of us. You're like normal.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was fun. He also had mentioned because I'm generally curious. I love calling people nicknames because it's endearing. It's and it's, for me, it's just having that kind of relationship. So if you get a nickname from me, you're like, yay. He mentioned that he calls you Spitfire and Firecracker
Yes.
because you have this high energy, which is very contagious, and it's great. But do you have a nickname for him besides the Brit?
I, I'm not really a nickname
Oh,
person,
okay.
honestly. Yeah, I don't really do nicknames, and I think it's partly because so many narrators have pseudonyms. So I've really trained my brain to only call them by their narrator name so that I don't ever inadvertently make a mistake. I hope, and I haven't, and use their even for the narrators who are open about it. Like I really just try to always call them by the name that they use, and that just helps me make sure that I'm not messing up. So no, I guess if I were referring to him, talking about him to somebody else in the community, it would probably just be as like our sexy Brit,
Yeah.
which is not a terribly exciting nickname. It's
No,
just
that's
the truth.
that's the appropriate. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm exactly the same way. I've tend to even on emails, and I'm like, just I call them by their name that we're using,
Mhm.
and I've had
Yeah,
people have some. I've had some of them turn around and say, you can call me blah blah blah, and I'm going, no,
right. Exactly.
and
Well, I'm
they're
not going to.
not going to, and they're like, no, and I go, no, I'm not going to. You recently started writing almost like a second wave of the dark after dark series for you because you had the first three books, which was under like the series of the gift, right?
Yes.
And now you have this other set of which you have one night only already out and available, and I think there's going to be two more with the one night concept, right? Something like that.
Well, actually, there will probably be many more. So the
Yay!
second, the second, the second set of books in my After Dark line, and my After Dark line is I named it that because yes, there is more sexual content, but it's also just more sensual, sort of like a touch more emotional, and it's more about the exploration of fantasies on the path to love, and it's not so reliant on the sort of rom-com tropes that I do in more of like the Dear Sexy Ex-Boyfriend books and whatnot. Yeah, so the new set of books in the After Dark line is under the series heading the Extravagant series. So that's one night only, and then the next one was originally called Only One Touch, but that was a little confusing, so I just changed the title to One Exquisite Touch, and that will be the one night only heroine's sister. They're twins, so they're twin sisters who run a hotel on the Vegas Strip, and it will be her story. Sage gets a story as well with a rival hotel owner across the way, and then there will also be One Time Only, which is an romance, and then I have at least two or three more planned after that. And if listeners like it, I'll just kind of keep it going. But I already have some general storylines for other characters that we will meet along the way. So that it'll just hopefully become, a nice longish running line of sexy books about these very rich people having great sex and exploring sex positivity and all of that.
Okay. Well, that you mentioned the sex positivity. That's one of the reasons why I love this series, is that it allows for that conversation to happen, and it provides that internal dialogue of like if you have a kink about exploring it, or if it's if you're quote unquote normal because you have this kink, or if someone's going to think less of you. You've done a phenomenal job with having that dialogue for the characters as well as the listeners, as there's just listening to the story. When you're writing these, are you thinking about some of these potential taboo subjects, or is it more like where the character comes into play?
I am. I really, that's, a review came up recently for One Night Only that mentioned the whole idea of it being very sex positive, which was great. I was really happy to see that because that is kind of the underlying theme, if you will, of many of these books, that it's, women exploring their fantasies, whether it's rough sex or threesomes or a particular type of kink. Whatever it is, what I want to do is give them the opportunity to explore it with safe, trusted partners, but also in a way that takes away any potential guilt or shame, but that becomes an embrace of the kink and the sexuality, because that's what I think one should do. And that's how I think it should be. I think, people have different kinks and different desires, and we all enjoy, hopefully, different things in the bedroom. And I think as long as you're safe and communicating with your partner and you trust your partner or partners, then that's a good thing. And that's really what I'm trying to explore in some of these books, is just looking at and not necessarily, more hardcore type of kinks per se, but just different ones and different ways to explore them, and but also to explore them in the context of, what does it mean to be a successful woman in business? What does it mean to be a supportive daughter or sister or mother or whatever it is? And to also, maybe one thing's a little rough in the bedroom or a lot rough or whatever it is. So that's really what I try to tackle in different ways for the heroines.
Yeah, that label of being the smart, important head boss lady, and then the loving mom or the loving wife. That doesn't mean that you don't like to be told what to do in the bedroom, or doesn't mean that you don't mind handcuffs and stuff like that. And it doesn't make you any less.
Exactly.
That has been really great, from a listening perspective, because I know sometimes it's looked down upon, or we actually, as women, we put ourselves down. Actually, that's more or less to it, and we tend to think that we shouldn't do this because this is what people think, you know. And in these environments with these consensual people that they trust, which are huge, important words, is good to see that these stories are being told, that it's okay, and things like that.
I'm glad you feel that way, because I really enjoy writing them.
I actually was thinking about you the other day. I was scrolling through my TikTok feed, and there's one thing came up on the For You thread, that was talking about how she had to explain to her 14-year-old son what kink was, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, but she is very much a sex positive. So I was like, well, oh, just like Lauren, and wanted to provide him with the actual information. And she used pancakes as an analogy. Everybody likes pancakes, which would be the sex, and we all like
Mhm.
different toppings. And some people, which would be the kink. And I'm going, oh, this would be good for Lauren.
Oh my God, I love it. That's
Yeah,
so
it
perfect.
is. It's just
And
perfect.
indulge in your favorite pancake topping.
And that's
Sometimes it's going to be
exactly what
whipped
she said.
cream.
Exactly. She's like, you need to discover what kind of toppings you like, and sometimes you can mix and match, and then you realize that some of them may not be for you, and others that you never thought a good combination
Right.
would be it. And at the end of it, she's like, and you would never really shame anybody for liking a specific topping on your pancakes, would you? So I was like, oh, that's good.
And sometimes you only want to try a topping once and you're good.
Yeah.
And you try the mixed fruit compote and you say, you know what? I had it. It was great. I don't need it again, but I'm glad I had it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was like, that's awesome. And that's the other thing too that I love
Yeah,
about your
that's
books.
great.
It's about that discovery, and it is not necessarily something that has to continue all the time. It's just one of those, well, I wonder what
Yeah.
the compost tastes like. Um
Right.
and that's it. You know? You are prolific. See, that word just came out wrong.
Taplish, prolific. We're making up all sorts of words today on Friday
I
afternoon.
know it's Friday and I have not drunk anything, I swear. Um, you write a lot. You're constantly coming up with new stories, and which we are always devouring it. So I think it's actually a good rate of you writing and us listening that comes into play. What do you have coming up next that you can talk about?
So we have the What If Guy. The What If Guy is coming out on July 23rd, I believe, which is fantastic. I love that. It is a office romance. It's an oops, I banged my boss romance. Sort of the guy you meet and have a one night stand with turns out to be the guy who's buying your company. And Joe Arden and Andy Arndt narrate that duet, and they sound absolutely amazing. I think
Mm-hmm.
I actually told Joe I thought it was his best performance ever for me, which is true. I do think it is, but then he went and made me a liar when he did A Guy Walks Into My Bar, and that's his best one. So I'm like, Joe, you made a liar of me in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, listen to A Guy Walks Into My Bar, and that's my favorite performance of yours. But the What If Guy is really incredible. I think he just does such a wonderful job. The hero is a single dad, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a 7-year-old daughter. So Joe is great as the single dad, really loving, takes care of his daughter, does fun things with her, is a good friend. You see him interacting with his friends. And then he's just oh my God, just a growly, dominating, dirty talker in the bedroom. And that's what the heroine wants. And he's fantastic. And he and Andy have wonderful chemistry, great energy. And it's also, there are 2 cats. The
Mm-hmm.
hero has a cat and the heroine has a cat. So the cats have some third person style narration in a couple chapters, and that's done by Emma Wilder, who we all love, and Tony winner Santino Fontana, who is well known as the voice of Prince Hans from Frozen, and he was phenomenal. He was born to play a cat. So he's
He was
really, really
great.
wonderful. He was so great. He was Bruce. He was so perfect as Bruce. So I'm really proud of that audiobook. And then A Guy Walks Into My Bar comes out in August, and that, for anyone who doesn't know, is my first male-male romance, and that's narrated by Joe and Shane with duet narration, and they're just phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. It's funny and sexy and emotional and passionate, and will basically, I mean, if anyone likes MM romance, they'll be putting the audiobook down for a minute and like grabbing somebody and like, okay, let's take her. I need a little action right now.
Yeah.
It's super hot. Like, it's very hot,
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Blakely benefited.
I think a
He
lot of
did.
people
He
that
did.
have had their hands on that script have benefited, I think. Okay. I will say that I'm the one that had to like go through it and say, this is a Joe part, this is a Shane part, and I'm reading because this is the only way to do it. And I'm going, I will get to this real quick. Hey, babe.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. So you're with me. Like, we're the same,
Totally.
girl.
Totally with you.
Our husbands are very happy with
Yes.
that work.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and on that note, go listen to it and report back to me.
I will do that. Yeah. I'm telling you, I think a lot of listeners and their partners are going to enjoy stuff like this, but then it's going to get to a point where the partners are going to go, so, are you listening to a Lauren Blakely book?
And who's narrating?
And who's narrating it? And that will give them a gauge as to what might be happening later.
Right, exactly. Like, all right, good to know. I'm going to get some things ready, honey.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go do the dishes while you finish listening. That's just like a bam right there,
I'm turned on just thinking about that. You doing housework.
Exactly. So that comes out in August, right?
Yes, that's August 17th.
17th, yes. And what else? Anything else you can share after that, or are you gonna keep?
After that, I have Thanks for Last Night, and that's a hockey romance, friends to lovers, a lot of fun. Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt are doing that, and have a couple guest stars, which we will reveal at a later date. Why did I say that? Later date. I think Friday is like tripping me up. I'm trying to be all fancy and stuff. And I'm like, just later day work, Lauren. Okay, stop trying to. Anyway, that I think is going to be super fun romance. And then in the fall, I will have 2 more After Dark books, which I have mostly announced the narrators for because they were mentioned in the audiobook of One Night Only. I'm not going to reveal the full cast for One Exquisite Touch, but that is Joe Arden and Emma Wilder are coming back, and they're going to be narrating that story. And there will be a third narrator, a male narrator, and I will tell you more at another time. And then One Time Only is going to be another male-male romance, and that was teased at the end of One Night Only, so people know that Teddy Hamilton and Jacob Morgan are a dynamic duo. I gotta get with me together, right? They're gonna be narrating that. And so excited for that. Really, really excited for that one because those two just are like magic.
Yeah, and I was thrilled when I got to hear that, last towards the end epilogue, and I'm going, oh, that's gonna be good.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. That story is like scenes are playing in the back of my mind while I'm writing other things. I'm like, I'll be there soon, boys. Don't worry. I'm gonna get to you. I know you want to get together. I'll be there soon to tell your story.
I gotta do all this other stuff first, but give me a second. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have a lot of Lauren Blakely's coming down the pipeline, so that's good. That always makes us all happy.
Lots of good books.
Yay! Excited. And along with the great books and stories, we always get those great narrators and those awesome covers that you always do. So one of the things I like to do towards the end of our chats is do a quick round of Would You Rather. I find them fascinating. So if we have just a couple questions, and then we'll be almost done. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
Cool. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early?
20 minutes early.
Would you rather know the history of every object you touch or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, I'd love to talk to animals. I have 5 dogs.
Yeah, that would be fun and interesting in the Blakely household.
Absolutely.
Would you rather be able to teleport anywhere or be able to read minds?
Oh, God, I don't want to read minds at all. That would be terrifying. And teleporting would be so great. So absolutely teleporting.
Would you rather never have to clean a bathroom again or never do dishes again?
A bathroom. I'm good with dishes. Well, and the benefit of dishes, frankly, is it helps get your cuticles nice and soft.
Yeah, so. You know what? Everybody that I've asked that question to has always said the dishes, that they would rather keep, not do the bathroom ever again, except for there's this one, and I still have to go back to them and say, so regarding that question, what was that about? What was that about? Like, let's talk about this a little deeper. All right, last one. Would you rather have a personal chef or a personal masseuse?
Oh, personal masseuse. I would totally benefit from that. Yeah. Oh, God, that sounds great. Please sign me up now. Every day.
Yeah, right? Oh.
My husband does most of the cooking. It's great. I already have a chef. He's a masseuse.
Yeah, that's also been the general consensus. Either the partner or the husband or they can cook themselves, but they can't get that spot. As I think Jacoby mentioned, that they can't get that spot in the back. Which is so true,
So true. So true.
Well, thank you, Lauren, for being my guest again for this year's Audiobook Lovin'. As always, this was a blast.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And until next time, happy listening.
Thank you for joining us in the Audiobook Lovin Series, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. We hope you have enjoyed this episode, as well as the series. We've included audio samples of our guests' work within the post for you to check out. Please make sure to visit the main page, linked within the post, to learn more about the series, the authors, and the narrators. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to the series if you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to follow us on our social media platforms and subscribe to the Viviana Enchantress of Books newsletter. Until next time, happy listening. Audiobook Lovin' hopes you've enjoyed this program.